Okay, everyone, it's officially 8:30 p.m. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Quick announcements here. As you can see, we've been on Code Blue for the last month, all of March. Next week, we're back to normal. The room will be back to normal, and our normal running should be a lot more seamless and not be mixed around and figure out which door. But it's a noble cause that the church does and helps people out that need some help, that just don't have some of the things that the luxuries that we have to enjoy. So it's a beautiful thing. This group is all about giving back and being of service. And in the last 2 years, we've purchased probably like 1,100 big books and donated most of them to all treatment centers. We have ongoing commitments at treatment centers. If you'd like to get involved and go there, we have one 10 a.m. on a Thursday. It's kind of a hall. It's up close to Bethlehem now. It's a treatment center, and then another one in Quakertown every Sunday night. People in treatment are just desperate to have some outside contacts and have some normal people that are getting some results as a result of not only being sober, but applying these 12 steps in the program. So a message of hope and recovery is probably the most important thing any of us ever heard in our lives, right? So if you're willing to do that, see me after the meeting. With that, we have the world's greatest chairperson all the way from Canada. Let's welcome Kara.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic.
Hi, Kara.
Welcome home. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name?
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group meeting after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. Now Thomas will come up to read Just for Today, Prayer of Recovery. Let's give Thomas a warm welcome. Woo!
Hi guys, I'm Thomas and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home, by the way. This is the Just for Today prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody but myself. And with that, let's have Connor up for the preamble.
Hi, I'm Connor. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I have Michelle to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. And these are the 12 steps of recovery. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening, as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And with that, I'd like to welcome Kara, our Southern Belle, back up.
The 7th tradition states, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce the speaker as a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Let's give Rob a warm welcome. He came all the way from White Cove, New Jersey. Woo!
Hey everybody, my name's Rob, I'm an alcoholic. Hey Rob! Thank you guys for having us. It's great to be here. I love the group. I was in a meeting last week and Ron brought us a great message and he said he was from the Doylestown group and I had stumbled across you guys on YouTube while I was working out at the gym flipping through AA speakers on YouTube, you know, and the message can be transferred that way, you know, and it reached me and I'm sure it's reaching a lot of other people. It's important work that you're doing here. It's a couple steps ahead where the rest of AA might be, you know, so kudos to you guys for that. That's a cool thing that you got going on. My sobriety date is August 1st, 2013, and it's not a day I picked, you know. I didn't say, hey, I'm going to get sober this day. I said I'm going to get sober tomorrow a lot of times, and it never came, you know. Tomorrow I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to get sober, tomorrow I'm going to check myself in, and sometimes I check myself in, but I didn't stay sober, you know. My home group is the Allendale group in Wyckoff, New Jersey, We are the Allendale group in Wyckoff. After COVID, we couldn't go back to our church, but we have a long history of being the Allendale group. We're 79 years old, so we kept the name. And we meet on Thursdays at 7:15 for an open beginner meeting, a closed step discussion meeting, and a closed speaker discussion meeting. And then we meet on Sunday at 7 p.m. For an open speaker meeting, and we book with the area. So it's been my home group for 10 years, and it's been great for me. You know, I'm currently I'll be leading the step discussion meeting every other week. I'm blessed that I found my wife in Alcoholics Anonymous, and we have a little one, so we alternate days. So I now have a shared commitment, which is, you know, the first time I've ever had that in my life. But you know, we do the best we can with what we got, you know. And I have a sponsor. He prefers I don't call him that, but he knows he is mine. He prefers that I call him the corner man. When I'm done fighting, we will throw in the towel together, is what he told me. And that makes a lot of sense. He wasn't the guy that first helped me into Alcoholics Anonymous. He's sponsor number 3. My first sponsor moved. He introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous and showed me this way of life. And he moved. And my second sponsor, we really drilled down into spirituality and step 11 stuff, and he passed away, you know. And so that taught me that a lot of things, you know, everything is temporary, you know. And so now I have sponsor number 3, and we have a good time. Most of our conversations is talking about how we're going to help the next guy at this point. You know, I mean, I always have my little whines and groans and all that kind of stuff, and you know, he says, "Are you sure about that? Are you really complaining about that? Did you pray? Did you write that inventory? Did you make that amends? Did you try to help somebody else? You know?" And that's what I need, you know. So Ron brought us a great message, and he talked a lot about this being a family disease, you know. And my parents are not alcoholic, but there was always alcoholism in my family. I had an uncle that was one of us, I suspect. I mean, he died of alcoholism in the gutter, you know, and I always had that warning, you know. You don't want to end up like your Uncle Eddie, you know. Even before I took a drink, that was the conversation that would happen in my family, you know. And I thought, I'll never end up like that, you know. I'm too smart, I'm too young, whatever. You know, so that was kind of the first thing I ever heard about alcoholism. But I was in an AA meeting. Somebody talked about liking the smell of gasoline, you know. And I like the smell of gasoline since I was 5 years old. I used to sneak into my shed with the girl from up the street, and we used to smell the gas can. And I liked the way it smelled, and I liked even better the way it made me feel. But I couldn't even remember that until I sobered up. You know, that wasn't even a conscious thought. It was too far, too repressed, too far away. You know, I had the spiritual malady way before I took a drink. You know, I like the smell of gasoline. I like getting over, you know, before I took a drink. We used to play this game on the double yellow line on the side of my neighborhood. Me and the kids, we called it skunking. You know, I don't recommend you try this. But we would tie a stuffed animal to a fishing pole, and we would pull it across the double yellow line when cars were coming. to see if we could get some kind of reaction. And thankfully, nobody ever got hurt, nobody had an accident, but the good townspeople, they caught on to this, pretty fast in the same spot all the time. And they used to get out, people would get really annoyed, and rightfully so, but they would get out of their car and chase us, or they'd call the police, and we would run through the woods. And I didn't like running through the woods. I had the feeling of fear. But when we got away, man, that was something. It was something, It was that thrill. It was that feeling of getting over, of getting away with something. And I loved it, I wanted to do it again. No consideration, to how selfish that is. Like, I want to get a thrill, but I want to put somebody else's life in jeopardy. Absolutely no thought, no consideration. And so that was before I took a drink. Might have had sips of beer, but my first drunk I remember pretty vividly. Me and my Romanian friend stole a bunch of liquor out of his parents' downstairs bar, and they were from Eastern Europe, so there was some strange things in there. There was pig's foot and some kind of liquor. There was pear. There was sambuca. And we took a little bit of everything that we could, and we mixed it into a water bottle. And we saw the older kids drinking and carrying on, and we just wanted to be a part of it. So when I took that drink with him, absolutely the worst tasting liquor I've probably ever drank in my life since then. I don't think anything's tasted worse than that I can remember. But I knew instantly that it did something for me. I got the feeling. I had the low-level anxiety, the self-conscious fear that I didn't know I had went away, and then I knew that I had that. I don't know about you guys, but I got the phenomenon. Some people drink their way into the phenomenon of craving. I've heard that experience. That's not my experience. I instantaneously experienced the phenomenon of craving, the first drink that I can remember. And I drank that down. It tasted terrible, but I knew immediately that I absolutely had to have another drink right then and there. And that's what I did. And I don't really remember exactly what happened that night, but I can tell you it probably fits into some or all of these categories. Probably had some laughs. I probably got belligerent. I probably was like an emotional basket case, whining about my problems, feeling self-pity for myself, potentially crying. Urinating in places that I probably shouldn't, and I don't think I got violent that night, but like that combination of things, it could be all of those, plus a good time, right? I might have had a good time for some of it, probably, otherwise I wouldn't keep drinking. So like that combination, that's what happens when I drink. And I don't know what combination is gonna happen when I take that drink. Like, the only thing that I remember in my alcoholic mind is the good parts of that usually, right? Like, I had a great time, like that's what my mind tells me, but like that's not really what happened. Like, I take a drink, and I instantly need to take another drink, and I don't know what's gonna happen beyond continuing to drink, right? Like, I don't know what my reaction's gonna be besides needing another drink. And the next day I felt terrible, but I definitely knew I was going to do that again the first chance I got. And I think I was 12 years old, and I made it my mission that that's what I was going to try to do at every opportunity. I did have some sense, and I recognized that the state I had been in the night before is probably going to be real noticeable to the people around me. If I start drinking in the morning or going to school after having drank. And so I knew I needed to hide it. And I look for other solutions right away to, mitigate those feelings in between drinks, right? Like there's other, substances and smoking pot, whatever. And like I kind of did that during the week, but I couldn't wait for the weekend to drink the way that I wanted. And I did every opportunity, and so that's how I spent my time. I lived a double life. I went to school, and the teachers would tell me how smart I was, how much potential I had. I was an A/B student, but I didn't have to try, I didn't really have to try. I could, do all my homework in class. I wouldn't take it home. I could take tests, and I would be a good student while I was there. But as soon as I got home, it was on every day. As soon as my foot touched off that bus or I got back to my neighborhood, it was party time every day. And maybe not drinking, but it was party time. So the older kids in my neighborhood, over time, given my reaction to alcohol, I started they started letting us hang out with them, and I started getting other people started to try to control my drinking for me, Like I wasn't really trying to control my drinking, but other people were most certainly trying to control my drinking, even people that might be alcoholic, Like I was no longer permitted to drink Goldschlager. Like that was immediately off the table at like the age of 13. Like they're like, we're not doing that again. Like that's not happening. Black House was off the list pretty early on, and others, at a young age. And I did find a combination that kind of worked for a while. If I could drink warm, cheap vodka and I could treat my nose, I would not black out. Maybe until 5 a.m., And I found that out at the age of 14. And that's, that's kind of what I did. But I'm 14, so it's kind of hard to live that lifestyle as a 14-year-old unless you're up to no good. And so I was constantly up to no good. I had dreams of, grandiosity, Scarface, Pablo Escobar. It wasn't in the cards for me, My little brother likes to say that monkeys can't sell bananas, And that's certainly true in my case. But the delusion continued, and I tried to make it work. And it didn't. Well, it kind of did, a little bit, sort of, for a time. I got by. And that's how I spent my high school time. And we would drink in the woods, and we would party. And I found that I could not make a total jerk out of myself if I did this. So, I had some good times. I'm not going to say I didn't have good times. There was tomes where, all the different cliques from high school would be at a bonfire in the woods. And it felt like there wasn't a distance between the societies, the social classes, the barriers seemed to melt away for a night, but they would come back, and I always wanted to get back to that place. And I could talk to girls, and every once in a while one of them would fall in my lap, and I would be like, this is great, this is amazing, this is what I want to do forever. But it continued to make serious, it continued to get worse. And, by the time I was 18 and going off to college, it was getting really out of hand. And I have a little brother that got sober actually before me. but he followed, in my footsteps. And so my parents had 2 boys that will roll in on Saturday morning at 5:30 a.m. wide-eyed, at the age of 18 and 15, 17 and 14. And my father would just look at us like he would be up or stay up or whatever. And he'd be like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "You know what we're doing." He's like, "Why? Can't you just come home at 2? It's 5:30, And he would just be stunned. And there was no grounding us. We didn't listen to anybody. We just did whatever we wanted, whenever we could, and got off whatever we were able to all the time, And my mother was just beside herself because she dealt with it with her brother, And then she started to get really nervous. When I came home drunk, not at 5:30 in the morning, wide awake, she was terrified of me. I was totally unpredictable, and I put a lot of fear in her, and I would just be belligerent and obnoxious and just impossible to be around. Just totally impossible. It was so disagreeable. Argue every point. Just punch holes in walls. Just absolutely out of control and a nuisance, And so I got a scholarship to college, and I decided that the current way of operating it's not really going to work there. I don't have the neighborhood crew, I don't have the connections. Maybe I gotta go and drink like a college student. Maybe I gotta put the hard stuff down and just go back to drinking. But I forgot, what happens when I'm just drinking. I got a scholarship. I was going to school for biochemistry. I had seen the DuPont commercials, and I believed in better living through chemistry. I honestly believed in my mind that I would be, creating a drug lab for myself at some point in the distant future, if I could gather the resources and the education necessary to pull something like that off. So that was good reason to put the hard stuff down and drink like a college student. But in short order, I'm fighting security and breaking windows, And I'm waking up in the morning and I'm well, it's college. I'm a freshman. Aren't they just gonna let boys be boys? And they were like, no, we don't do that here. You gotta go, And I went home and I went back to the way it was, But it got worse, and I didn't sleep for a year, and I tried going back to school, but before I went back to school, I discovered other things, and I became a full-time. I was a junkie and a drunk and a thief and a liar, and even the older kids that taught me how to do this stuff started to hate me. They didn't want to be around me. They knew that I was a scumbag. I was killing my parents. My brother's following with me, and it's just getting worse and worse. And for the next 7 years, it was jails and institutions and death around me. That's the short version. Everybody knows what happens, But the highlight of that is that I would be in these jails and in these institutions, and the fine people of Alcoholics Anonymous never failed to come. They would always come. And, in the rehab, you kind of had no choice, but in the county jail, it was kind of a treat because you could see people maybe from the other block or whatever. So I would always go, And they would come and they would give the same message every time. They would say that God had done for them what they couldn't do for themselves, which just killed me, because I'm a science guy, for 2 semesters, But that's what I thought, and it would really annoy me. But they would tell their story, and I'd identify it. I felt like them. I drank like them. And I thought like them. And I lived like a lot of them too. So a seed was planted. But before they left, they would always say the same thing. They would give these simple instructions, which were never possible. I was always unwilling, and too closed-minded, and too dishonest to ever follow. Every time. They would say, when you get out of here, go to a meeting, raise your hand, ask for help, join a home group, take a service commitment, get a sponsor, and pick up a copy of our basic text. Take all 12 steps with the sponsor, and you'll be happily and usefully whole. Something along those lines, just about every time. Must have heard it hundreds of times. But upon release, I would have thoughts like this. I got out at 9:30. It's now approaching noon. So I'm not going to put a needle in my arm. But since it's going to be noon, it's really time for a beer. And it would be the same thing over and over again. And, every time I was faced with when I was fully sober, physically sober, right? And I was faced with a fork in the road. And a drink is one way, and what I'm supposed to do is the other way. Like, I was literally at a traffic light with my brother, and we just looked at each other, and this car just turned the way, and we just looked at each other, and we still had 30 minutes to go, but we knew there is no turning back. It was it. It's over. Totally powerless. And I came to that conclusion slowly, painfully, that I have no choice, and I came to a hopeless place. My brother was in the newspaper for his activities, and a Christian do-gooder called my house and got him into rehab or whatever. And we had been in and out of institutions and on various schedules. One in, one out, one in rehab, one in the county jail, one's coming out while the other one's still drinking and getting high, and we just pull each other into this whole thing. And so he went away, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, if he gets home, we gotta do something about this. I'm just gonna not talk to him even though we live in the same house. And I didn't. And he was able to stay sober, and I was like, my homeless friend inherited $50,000, so we tried that one last time, change of scene, more money, we're gonna try it. And so I did, and an incredible thing happened. Given all those resources, I was start at $0 in the morning, hide under my blanket, listening to Law and Order Special Victims Unit, identifying with victimhood, unfortunate circumstances. Though I thank God, I have never experienced any of the trauma they were talking about. I felt like I had, though. It felt that deep to me, the unfairness of it all. Anyway. But the most incredible thing happened. There was no way, no matter what I did, no matter how much I drank, it still didn't fix the spiritual malady. It just stopped working. And I came to the jumping off place that they talk about in our big book. And I didn't know what to do. And I thought I was a tough guy, but I called my mother, because that's what tough guys do. Call mommy. And she came and got me and took me to detox. And she was none too thrilled, but she would always ask me the same questions. She'd be like, "Are you done yet?" And like when I was like 12, getting arrested for underage drinking, I would be like, "Yeah, Ma, I'm done." You know? And by the time I was 18, like, I was just so sick of like knowing that I'm gonna end up lying to her even though I don't mean to, that I would just tell her no. And like, the words came out of my mouth that just, these are words that don't come out of my mouth. Like, I said, "I don't know." And I am an I know guy. I know a lot of stuff. All the time. If you ask me, I will tell you how much I know. And I finally didn't know. And that was a turning point, you know. So I went to detox and got out. And this is where I allowed God to show up in my life. I was 1 hour out of detox. I had to see the PO. I'm at the PO's office in a bad neighborhood. And my homeless friend is standing on the corner, still with the inheritance money that I left in Atlantic City. And I'm faced with the next one, the fork in the road. And the only thought that I had was that maybe God could and would for me too. Something along those lines. And I asked for help with a humility. Internally, I didn't think I said anything out loud. With the humility I haven't been able to muster since. And that was the first time. And I came to believe that Alcoholics Anonymous could work for me too. You know, I didn't think it was for me. I thought it was for you and the weak-willed, stupid followers, you know. But I came to believe it could work for me too. And, you know, I finally did what those fine people told me to do. I don't know how many times. I went to an AA meeting. I raised my hand. Said I'm new. Excuse me. I asked for help. My first sponsor assigned himself as my sponsor to me. He handed me a big book. He told me I'm making coffee the next day, you know, and all those things were just kind of handed right over to me. And I had no job, no car, no cell phone, no girlfriend. Like, I had nothing going on. And he was like not working. So he's like, "I'll see you at 7 a.m. tomorrow." I'm like, 7 a.m.? He's like, "Yeah, 7 a.m. He's like, "What, you got plans?" Like, no. And he took me around AA and he showed me about service and he showed me about a sober life. I identified with his feelings. His lifestyle was totally different than mine when he was drinking. Didn't matter one bit. We thought the same, we felt the same. We opened up the basic text and I saw myself in those pages. The phenomenon of craving I had always understood. The obsession of the mind I had always kind of, you know, I kind of knew like I didn't have a choice when I was faced with it. But when he started to explain the spiritual malady, I was like, that's the thing I got. That's what's been wrong with me. I had no explanation. I thought I was particularly like extra screwed up, like beyond like anything else. And like somebody finally had an explanation for me. And I was hooked, you know. And he just put me in his pocket, man. You know, I hope I could repay that one day. I don't think I can, you know. It's a miraculous thing, and within I don't know 2 months, you know, I started to get better. We read through the big book. It was my first time in AA, so we kind of turned it into a coloring book a little bit, you know. But I needed that. My brain was shot, and I had no knowledge of this stuff, you know. And like I remember, I asked him about the second step, you know. It's like I said, I think God showed up on that street corner. He said, "Yeah." I was like, "But I don't have any conception." He's like, "That's all right." He's like, "You don't need one." He's like, "You can borrow mine." He's like, but while you do that, why don't you write down all the coincidences that happen to you as we start doing this thing, you know? And I did. And I started to see that God had showed up in my life before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, when I really honestly took a look at it. And it would happen like almost every day. I'd have something new on there. And I could start to see that God had been in my life all the time. And like, it's not like I had a great connection, but like it started to open my mind. And when we got on our knees and said the third step prayer, like I was ready to do that, you know. I didn't care if I got laid. I didn't care if I got paid. I didn't care where I lived. All I wanted to do was like get sober, stay sober, and like try to become a citizen, you know. Like I didn't have anything else to do. Like that was it, you know. And I wrote the fourth step probably in like 4 weeks, you know. As thorough as I could at the time. A lot more inventory, second and third round and fourth round and all that stuff, but like it cleared me up enough that when I read that fifth step and I came home for the hour, I sat on my steps, I could finally hear my neighborhood. I was so absorbed in self, the noise in my head. I hadn't heard birds chirp unless it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I hadn't heard children play in a neighborhood. I hadn't heard an airplane. All I could hear was my head and my thoughts and self and fear. And you're a scumbag. And how are you ever going to make this? All that stuff. And like for the first time, like that didn't happen. And I was like starting to have a spiritual experience, you know. And I was in, man, you know. And I wanted to be different. You know, I didn't fully understand the depths of my defects of character, but I knew that I didn't want to be a thief. I didn't want to be a liar. I didn't want to be inconsiderate to my parents, you know, and I wanted to do something different. And I tried to muster as much humility as I could, but I don't think I could match the day on the street corner. Couldn't create that on my own power. So I had a list and people I had harmed, you know, and so a girlfriend of mine, we started down this path together, you know, and like just for a background, like I'm a guy that like when like people that I hang out with like overdose and die, like I'm the guy that's like not allowed at funerals. Do you know what I mean? Does anybody identify with that? You know, they're like, nah, he's not allowed here. He's too much of a scumbag. He probably had some kind of part in this, you know? I'm that guy. And anyway, so I owed amends to a girlfriend that we went down this path, and she passed away, and terrible circumstances, and you know, big drama with her family, my family, all this stuff, and whatever. And so that's on the list, and I walk into a church one day, and I got the list, and I got the thing, and it just hits me one day. So you should go to the cemetery today and read your letter. So I do as I'm told, right? Like I follow the inspired thought. Now, I can be wildly uninspired at times and, you know, try to do this kind of stuff. But this like, you know, if I try it 100 times, I finally hit it, right? So I go to the cemetery, and I can't find the grave, and there's a woman there, and so me and her in the cemetery. It's the girl's mother on the same day, at the same time, who hated my guts. And she saw me, and she's like, oh my God, you're sober. She knew instantly, and she cried. And like, I was like, well, you know, it was bad to your daughter, you know, I didn't help your family, you know, like, there's a lot of drama, like, it's a tragic thing. I wasn't there, but, you know, we started down this path together, and I wish it could be different. Like, is there anything I left out? And is there anything I could do to make it right? And she's like, I don't think you left anything out. She's like, but what you can do to make it right is you can stay sober and try to help the next person so that somebody else's mother doesn't have to have conversations in a cemetery. You know? And like, my primary purpose was fixed in place as a result of that amends. You know, that one particularly had a lot of meaning to me because it gave me purpose. It solidified it. I could read it on the shade, but I couldn't. It had so much depth in that situation, and that's pretty much what I set out to do. You know, I wrote a lot of inventory since then, made a lot of amends since then, knocked on doors of dangerous people that I owed money to that I thought I literally might get shot in the face, and they were like, I was praying for you. I hoped you get sober. Remember we had that conversation, my mother was an alcoholic? Or do you go to AA? Gave me a hug. What? Some people wanted nothing to do with me, and that's okay too. I made an attempt, you know. And I continued on. My brother stayed sober, and we moved. My parents lost their house. Me and my brother moved in with my aunt. Like, we ended up in Bergen County. And Allendale became my home group, and we made a new network. And I started, you know, God started to recreate my life, you know, from nothing. And my brother too. And as a result of God, a loving God, despite me, he did that, you know, for our whole family. Our whole family's been reassembled. It's miraculous. It's miraculous. A couple simple directions that were told to me, I don't know how many times. And a loving God recreated everything for us. I put some effort into it, but he made the connections. He did the heavy lifting. I just did the footwork. I was wrapped up with women in a fashion I wouldn't care to have advertised at some point, probably at about 18 months. And I hadn't really gave prayer and meditation the greatest honest try, right? I would do it, but I was half-hearted about it. And this was causing me some pain, you know? And so I set out on this mission to improve my conscious contact, you know, which is the name of this group. And I was diligent about it. And I had an experience, the experience that Bill Wilson talks about in the Big Book. And it changed a lot of my perspective all in a flash, you know. And, you know, but the thing about that was that I had a new God, I knew his name. It was miraculous, it was exciting, it was emotional. But 5 months later, I'm in South Africa. I'm thinking about leaving Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm thinking about becoming a pastor of a church, okay? And so I'm in South Africa, and I'm on another turning point in my sobriety. Do I leave Alcoholics Anonymous? Because now that I have this experience, y'all are you're just not doing it right. You're not holy enough. You know, it's not good enough. It's not strong enough. You know, and thank God for AA literature and that I read it and people pointed it out to me. And I'm sitting on the bed, and this is the kind of thing I'm thinking about, fresh off a spiritual experience, right? The instant kind, you know. And I hear noise outside. There's nothing there, and it hits me like a flashlight. There's a poem by Sam Shoemaker that I had read, and it just flooded into my mind. And the gist of it is this: It's about being a doorkeeper. And the gist of it is this, like, he's got to stand, the door is to, like, the house of God, right? And so he'd rather stand by the door. So the people that can't find the door, he can put their hand on it and they can find the house. And, like, that's the obvious one, right? But he stands by the door for the people that go into the house, and God is too much for them. They want to run out. But then he's there at the door to tell them to go back in. And I had become the third man in a very short time. And I had gone too far into the house of God, and I had forgot what it was like on the other side of that door. And I knew that my place was here in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. And those are some turning points in my sobriety where conscious contact has showed up in my life and molded some of my ideas and placed me on different trajectories, you know. Everything in my life is a result of God and Alcoholics Anonymous. Like I said, my family's been reassembled. I was working a landscaping job. A member of Alcoholics Anonymous that is sober sometimes was going to prison. And he said, would you like to come manage my business while I'm away? So I went from landscaper to manager. Did that for a while. The result of Alcoholics Anonymous, trying to become a citizen. And I worked there for a while. So my employment was a result of Alcoholics Anonymous. Where I currently work, I talked to a gentleman that I had some dealings with, and he said the strangest thing to me. And he might still be delusional, but he said the strangest thing to me. He said, I think you might have the kind of humility that I would need for somebody to work for me. I was like, what? What? I think you got the wrong guy. So he hired me, and I didn't know he was a member. You know, I found out after. Before I started this job, I had gone to Akron for Founders Day, and I told him I could start after this time. Right? I'll start and go to Akron for Founders Day, and then I'll start this new job. So we're sitting in a hotel room, Dallas, Texas. And he's like, well, so what were you doing in Akron? I was like, I was visiting some friends in Ohio. He said, where exactly in Ohio were you? I said, Akron. He said, Akron, Ohio, huh? June 10th, huh? I said, yeah. He said, oh, you're a friend of Bill W. He's like, me too, 20 years. And I was like, wow. God working in my life. My brother wed his wife here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was in a relationship that I was exiting, and my brother met his wife, and she introduced me to my wife here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not necessarily recommending that. Not necessarily. I mean, it worked out for me. I've seen it go terribly south. I've tried it a couple times before that. It didn't work out so well, you know, but it worked out, you know, and I have an AA nephew, I have an AA daughter. We have Sunday dinner at my parents' house, you know, as a result of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah, my life's been reassembled. And we have a good time, you know, and we all sponsor people, you know, and we spend a lot of time at it, you know, and it's meant a lot to me over the years, you know. Can't help everybody, but I can try one at a time, you know. Can't save the world. Tried that, didn't work. It's not intended for me to preach the gospel. Found that out in South Africa. Can't go too deep in the house, you know. we can dig deep into that big book. We can follow those simple instructions. I can help you find a God of your misunderstanding too. You know, I misunderstand. You'll misunderstand. And that's okay. We try to gain some understanding, and we work at it together. You know, I tried the hierarchical way, dictates. You know, and for some people that works. You know, that's fine. But I like to take the steps with people, take the steps together. You know, my hope is that if we sit down and read the big book, we will become friends. We don't have to, but the likelihood is that if you have a spiritual experience, I have a spiritual experience, watching you have a spiritual experience, and that's a bond, man. That's a bond. That is a love for my neighbor that isn't just words on a paper. That is a spiritual connection that it can't be forgotten. It just can't be forgotten. Even if it doesn't work out, even if I move or they die or whatever, it's a spiritual connection that can't be broken. That's a bond that I never had. Right? That was the barrier that was melted at those keg parties and the bonfire, the destruction of walls with another person. That it's a pleasure, you know. I always wanted to be a lot like Dr. Bob, but I'm a salesman now, and I'm a lot more like Bill Wilson. And I still want to be a lot more like Dr. Bob. But some of the lines at the end of his story always ring true to me, you know. And I like the order that they're in. Why do we spend, you know, essentially, why are we here? Why do we spend so much time in Alcoholics Anonymous? Working with others. It's a pleasure. Right? Number one, it's a pleasure. Sense of duty, certainly have that. I talked about that a little bit. Certainly owe the debt, right? Made a lot of amends. But I'm okay always owing, you know. I'm okay with that, you know. Will I ever be able to make it all the way right? I don't know. Probably not. I'll keep trying. You know, that was my big fear. I'll never be able to make it right. My slate will never be clear. Never be a citizen. You know. My record was just expunged in the last year. 3 felonies. 47 arrests. I'm a citizen again. As a result of Alcoholics Anonymous. Miraculous. Never thought it would happen. Took 10 years. Plus. You know. And, you know, when I'm down in the dumps, it's the 4th reason why we do this. You know, if it's not going so well, it takes out the insurance that I don't drink again. You know, and but most of the time that's not why I'm doing it. It's a pleasure and a sense of duty. You know, I love having guys at my table eat dinner with my wife. We cook dinner, then we read the big book. We go through the steps. We have dinner, and then we read the big book. And then some of them get sober, you know, and I get to watch them build lives again, you know. And sometimes they sponsor people and do the same thing, and sometimes they sponsor people and do the same thing. And it's that ever-widening circle they talk about. I think it's in a vision for you. I don't know where it is, but of goodwill to all men. And it's nice to be a small part of it, you know. I didn't do anything special. I didn't do anything more spiritual or extravagant than anybody that came before me here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I just followed the same simple suggestions that they had laid out to me in every institution, in the meetings that I showed up at. And you know, loving God has kept me here. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And I'm eternally grateful to be out here speaking to you people at a group that's trying to carry this message, that's talking about conscious contact. And, you know, It's a lovely time. So thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you all.
Let's give Rob another thank you. It was a powerful message. Okay, so it's customary to form a line and to thank our speaker. They come here at their own time and expense. So after the meeting, you can thank Rob again for his incredible message. And we could use some help putting chairs away. And also, we would like to close the meeting with an Our Father, if you'd like to join us.
Let's make a circle. We can do it.
Thanks.
There you go. It's your first circle.
It's my first circle.
There you
Go ahead, you started.
Good stuff, good stuff. We linked up here. Let's take a moment of silence for the still sick and suffering. And if you care to join us, we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back.
Works if you work it.
That's a wrap.